I'm Art Wells, and I find things. Whenever I'm feeling like I'm losing touch with my own ideas and reflections, I try to name the things I find so I have a handle to carry them by. And that helps. I got some good feedback from the past episodes. Some have told me how they are using the methods. Some have told me that they've been doing similar things all along. Nobody is saying that I'm coming up with anything exciting or shocking. People seem to be getting some little advice around things all our minds do at times, or at least they know they aren't alone in doing it. People seem to be getting a way to comfort their thoughts and encourage their thoughts. This makes me happy. Please do keep the feedback up, and don't hold back criticism either. I really don't know what I'm doing here yet. Along those lines, I don't know how to get this podcast into the hands of people who could use it. I don't think I'm going to put a lot of effort into publicizing this, and advertising would feel wrong. So if you like what you're hearing, share a link with like-minded friends or groups. And as always, let me know what you think. This morning I was thinking about writing this while walking the dog. I saw 4 spots of a paint splatter that were roughly in the configuration of moles on my left shoulder. I used to mark things and locations I found special with that mark. So the word mole dots came to mind. I then became immediately distracted trying to cross a busy intersection with the dog, who was herself distracted by something that smelled interesting. I walked on, saw more stuff, thought about different things. It was a very distracted walk. But before I got home, the name mole spots came back to me, and I'm glad it did, because it helped me think about what I want to cover in this episode. In the last episode, I promised that the next several episodes would cover some methods core to my practice. I covered being conscious of what you notice, and deliberately trying to notice the less noticeable. This not only helps me come up with new ideas, but comforts me when things are overwhelming or drowned in others' intentions. So what happens next? I mentioned that it's good to carry context and thoughts with you as you go, for hours or even days. But how? I capture my reflections on an object by naming the object and sometimes marking the location I've found it in my mind. Off the top of my head, I could probably only come up with a couple dozen examples, most of them recent, so it's not like I carry a contact list of names. Still, off the top of my head, I can remember 3 objects by name from more than 25 years ago, and I can point on a map where I found them within about 10 yards or so. I remember most of these because of the important new decisions I was making at the time. But I mostly remember them because I revisit them as architects to guide me in decisions and in making new interpretations. The new locations are important too. I hope to cover the importance of location in a later episode. One example. After high school, early spring 1986, I couldn't afford the college I wanted to go to, and after wandering quite a bit and sleeping on floors and sofas, I ended up with a job in Orem, Utah. I was working a ton of overtime and burning out hard at 18. I felt like I was falling apart and needed to fall apart. I was walking towards the Highway 15 underpass on the north side of 800 North. I found the Joker card faced up with the top pointing east-northeast. The words, "Things get weird," came to mind. That's what I still call it when it appears in different forms. I haven't found a Joker in a long time, but I've found plenty of its echoes. After finding Things Get Weird, things didn't get weird. I had a pretty controlled demolition of my life and moved on to a much better course, mostly guided by the thought that things were going to get weird. Those thoughts were exactly what I needed and exactly what I wasn't doing. Though all good interpretations welcome some disruption, Things Get Weird welcomes thoughts about a particularly exotic, destructive disruption. You can use that if you find it helpful sometime. Get ahead of the change, the weird. Make it follow you. This card was also the second time I found a playing card and let it guide my thoughts to the right path. Maybe I'll go into my oracular history in depth in a later episode. Playing cards in particular figure heavily into that history, as well as other archetypes that I keep as a vocabulary of finding things. It is important that you find your own vocabulary. If you are wandering and finding things, or shuffling through media or whatever and gathering objects, it's easy to lose most of what you find. You should lose most of it, allowing distractions to winnow out the chaff. But it's important to keep some of it for later contemplation and guidance. And you need handles to hold so much. In episode 2, I mentioned that in bibliomancy, revelation or firm guidance sometimes doesn't come for days or even months after the finding. To carry these things for so long, you need good handles. Let's make some. Pick a goal for a number of names to find. Start with 1, maybe try 12. It really doesn't hurt to fail at this. Just dive in and forget your limits. Just point at things with your mind. Notice things, as the last episode discussed notice. If you can go for a walk, go look for stuff. Gather things you see in your mind. If you can't go for a walk, hang on and I'll give you some things I saw on a walk. You can keep a journal or a list of things if you'd like. I haven't in quite some time, except for things I find while in sensory deprivation, but that's another episode. As you find things, name them in your mind. The names don't have to be descriptive names or poetic names. Think about just giving them nicknames. Remember to think about what you were thinking of and anything else contextual and put them under that name. After you do and move away, recite the name internally once or twice, along with a piece of context or two. When you get home, maybe recite them again. Revisit your list later, in the following days, at times when your mind is idle, like when you're going to sleep, showering, cooking, doing the dishes, whatever. Do that for days and let your mind ruminate on them. Do it narratively sometimes to yourself, like, I saw the 10 of hearts on an overgrown parking strip. I was thinking about how I feel like I should be looking for work. After I saw it, I thought I could get a pass on not working. It's important to add or replace the story as you go. This morning on my walk with the dog, I recalled the card I found. I thought I was just trying to justify my laziness. After, I was thinking that I'm doing what I should right now. Anyway, if you can't go out and look for stuff on a walk, here's some things I've found and named. You give them your names. Me using my words to describe these things will make it a bit difficult, but just give it a try. A pair of crows picking at nuts at an intersection. A bracket that could have been for a shelf, but looks way too thick. Index card with the words, made with turmeric, and some division equations written on it. Twig in the gutter shaped like a Y with a black hairband to its right. An 8 or an infinity sign in blue plastic raised 1/4 of an inch from a thin surrounding square. A drafting T-square made of acrylic, snapped off at the length. If that doesn't work, here's another exercise. Recall yesterday. What you did yesterday. Did you go anywhere? Did you break anything? Did you fix anything? Did you cook something special? Did you have a special conversation? Consider anything out of the ordinary or all that was ordinary. Now give yesterday a name, just one name. Something like Baking Day, or Day of the Shattered Mug, or Day of Lists. If yesterday is too overwhelming to name, pick a recent morning or night. If none of that works well, just name a recent conversation or a dream you've had recently. Write these down if that feels right for you. Do this exercise regularly until it becomes boring. What you're aiming at is the habit of handles for your thoughts. Become a master of naming. Naming is a form of power in a lot of religions and traditions. I won't do an inventory of these, But if you have a few hours or years, search on true names and strap in. Outside all of that, writing or repeating a name is a way of calling the named thing to your mind. Hearing a known name brings forward your knowledge, history, emotions. Names are powerful, but it's a power that acts upon us first, primarily, and maybe entirely. Regardless of the possible religious or cultural contexts, names can be at least evaluated as just interface, how we connect to a large collection of ideas and thoughts. Think of a friend or an enemy, a neighbor or family member. Say their name out loud. Repeat it. Sing it. Notice how your mouth or your hands feel when you say it. Recognize and quickly pass by all the feelings and past moments associated with that feeling. The name is a label, a handle, even a past path, a story told again and again. Let the naming of trivial things have that power. Yesterday's name can have the power, the density, the rich dimensions of a lover's name. You name it, you catalog it, it fits into your head and creates its own space. While true names might give you power over things in some stories or beliefs, to give something a name is to give it a welcome. Your personal system of taxonomy must be vulnerable to be effective. You probably don't want to share the names you give to things with others. So it's important to focus on how you use names in your practice. Make them personal, even private, and let those names guide you as you find new things. Mostly, though, let them briefly allow you to carry memories and reflections that come with them, and allow them to keep gathering burden. Maybe next time we'll talk more about how these handles create pathways or mileposts for your mind to populate, how they become pins in the map your mind keeps as you move through time and place, how they are your travel companions. So when you notice things, give them a name, and maybe you'll remember them better. Maybe they will be guides forever, or maybe you'll just get a better relationship with them. Let me know how it goes.